Hey folks, welcome to Market Technical Analysis by InTheMoneyStocks.com for Thursday, January 3rd, 2008. Well, the second day trading or trading day of the year was pretty quiet overall, and it's a beautiful thing because as we talked about yesterday, this choreographed dance, if you would, with the charts and the technicals all kind of corresponding and finding an area where they can close this market just on a pivot point or something like that. Well, it continues today, and I'm going to show you why. We talked about, do they confirm the move down yesterday with another move lower today, and we needed a lower close than the low of yesterday for a real confirmation. We did not get that. But on the other side, they closed the market on the 200 moving average, and we said, well, do they bring it above the 200 and close it above? And they did not do that either. They kind of closed it right in a pivot area, and interestingly enough, right above 2,600 on the NASDAQ. So that's what we're going to focus in on first today, guys. And just before we get started, I just want to encourage everyone to come join the chat room. It continues to be a lot of fun, a lot of learning going on in that chat room. And even if you're not a day trader, it's a perfect situation to pop in and out throughout the day, listen, ask questions. You can ask our opinion on different technicals and charts. We'll do our best to talk to you about the technicals, and you can just pop in whenever you want, which is one of the nice things about the room. You might not be there for the day trades if they're here and there, but if you can come in and spend an hour or two a day, it's more worth it than any type of seminar out there. Plus, a month for $199.95 is extremely beneficial, even if you just come in for 1 hour a day. In addition, just to point out before we get into the charts, folks, unfortunately, we will be raising the 1 month chat room starting in February, so be aware of that. The 3 and 6 months will stay the same because the commitment that you're making to us is obviously worthwhile. But we have to be competitive, and our competitors are much, much higher. So in doing so, we have to raise that price. All right, folks, let's get right into this. Anyway, so come join it before we raise it. That's my point. Give it a shot. Now, looking at the NASDAQ, we talked about how this was here, folks, and about how the NASDAQ closed down today, but it was basically a lackluster day. I mean, if you guys could be there in the chat room, we're like, okay, the NASDAQ is now slightly positive. Okay, the NASDAQ slightly negative. The ES futures are slightly positive, slightly negative throughout the day. And we had one instance during the day, and I'm going to bring up the ES chart here to focus on this, where we actually looked like we were going to break out. And let me get out my trend tool so we can actually annotate the chart here. But you can see this whipsaw action. Look at this. I mean, you're just talking about up, down, up, down, up, down. And then we got to this point here where it looked like we were going to break out. But what did we correspond with on the chart? And this was right over lunch, too, when volume was very, very light. And look at this volume down here. Just dead. But we hit the 200 moving average on the ES futures here. And once you hit that, folks, then, light trading environment, it's going to be tough for you to get through. And obviously the market could not. We sold off down, we bounced back up again, sold off down again, bounced back up, and then into the close we started to sell again. So this is where things get interesting here, because I really want to point this out, is that there's a key economic data coming out, the ADP jobs report tomorrow, I believe it is. The jobs report will be out tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning, Eastern time, and you have to ask yourself, do these charts set us up and tell us any hints? Because I'm a firm believer that these numbers might be released to the open market in the media at a certain point, but I think that other people get the numbers before us, frankly, and it wouldn't shock me to find that that's true. So the question is, do we have indicators that can give us a little idea? Now, we'll look at the NASDAQ again. I just want to point out this, though, on the ES. Just a little bit before the close of the market here, about 3:30, we started to rally up right into the close, and here the market closes. So right here where I'm drawing this line down, that's the market close right there. Then right after the close, you got some buying pressure, and these two here candles from 4 o'clock to 4:15, that's what they coincide with, were the last candles on the ES futures as they close at 4:15. So you have the market closing at 4, and the ES futures continuing to trade till 4:15. Now the question remains, you see this big move up here. It's either short covering or someone knows something, and either way it's buying pressure. My guess it's probably leaning more towards the short covering as someone doesn't want to take a risk holding it tomorrow till 8:30 and just wants to unload right here where the volume was enough to get out of a large position. Once the futures start trading at 4:30 p.m. again Eastern time, all the way till the next day 4:15. So 23 hours, 45 minutes a day. But after hours, the volume is so light that if you have to unload 100,000 contracts, you're just not going to do it. There's no way, no way. So in any case, folks, my point being here is that maybe someone knows something about the ADP, the jobs number tomorrow. Maybe not. Maybe it's just short covering. But either way, it was someone buying in there with generally a large amount of size, pushing up the S&P futures here about 5 points right after the bell. So in any case, that's an interesting note here. Now let's look at the NASDAQ, and I want to touch on the NASDAQ here. All right, here first of all, we had this low. Now this is the low that we had to close below if we wanted to confirm the move down. We came down, we broke that line slightly intraday, but we closed back up. Not only did we close back above that, but the NASDAQ did close down 7 points, but it closed back up. They were able to save it and close it back above 2,600. And I keep on talking about 2,600 being a key level because psychologically, I'm a firm believer that once you close below 2,600, then you leave the door open to fall another 100 points to 2,500, which is another psychological number. Just like 13,000, 14,000 on the Dow is a psychological number, and half of the game in the markets is psychological, folks. Yeah, no doubt about it. It's how do people respond to data. Data really doesn't force the markets to do anything. It's psychologically how do people react to this data. So understand that. In any case, we closed above. We did close down on the NASDAQ, but we did not confirm the move down. But we did close below the 200 moving average, which is this pink line right here. Okay? So closing below is a bearish sign, but not confirming the move down yesterday is a bullish sign, or at least a neutral sign. In addition, closing above 2,600 has to be looked at as a neutral to bullish sign as well. So you have a couple negatives, a couple positives. Now, we have the jobs data tomorrow, and this is the big thing for the week here, folks, on Friday. You're going to see movement in the futures at 8:30 based on this number without a doubt. So be ready for that. Those of you that are in the chat room, I'll be in the chat room a little early tomorrow, as I said, in the chat room at 8:25 a.m. in the morning. We'll kind of go over it. We'll talk about it and watch the market move on this data. Should a good trade arise, we'll take it. Pre-market trading can be tough sometimes, but we'll watch it, be very cautious, and if it should appear, we'll take it. Now, the question is this, folks. We talked about sentiment yesterday and maybe a little too bearish out there. Do we need another pop or at least another small move up to get people bullish? We talked about the technicals showing a bearish sign, and we talked about the bearish sign all the way over here once we got to this point here, especially for this spike down. We had been talking about bearish technicals. Now we have a possibility of some more bearish technicals, although we did not close below and confirm this move. Now, just to reiterate the lows again, you're talking about should we confirm the move down from yesterday tomorrow, let's say, then you got to look for a minimum of probably a move down at least to here, but it's more likely if it's that bearish tomorrow that it causes that move down, it probably has a possibility of moving us down to this level, which are November lows. This will be a lot of support right here. The market will do its best to support the market right around this level here, probably in between this level because you have the tip of this tail all the way down here. So you could even say, all right, well, there's a possibility for some support right around here. These are all levels where if you're looking to play for a bounce, that's where you do it, but you have to exit it as soon as it breaks that level because it most likely is going to the next level below. Now, this one obviously will be the most support right here, most likely. Should we break that level, we do see a move down to the August lows, which are a little lower than this on the NASDAQ. So keep that in mind. And again, you got to wonder, you got to wonder these jobs numbers. I always raise questions, and I never know for sure. I'm no genius, and these are just for entertainment purposes. I do my best with my current knowledge, and obviously my knowledge base expands every day. I learn more and more, just like I hope everyone does. But anytime you have expectations of economic data coming out, in this type of environment, people's expectations are very, very low. All right, so take that into account. At the same time, the economy's not doing great, so maybe it's even lower than people's expectations. But a bad jobs number doesn't mean the market will fall. It's a bad jobs number in relation, and this is key, a bad jobs number in relation to people's expectations. If people's expectations are at 1 and a bad jobs number is 5, and we come in at 4, so even worse than a bad jobs number, but people's expectations were 1, then the market rallies because it wasn't as bad as expectations. So keep that in mind, folks, is that it all is in relation to how people feel about that number, how people react to that number. Ultimately, I think we're going to break down to August lows eventually, maybe even lower, probably lower, but there is a question about when do we see a bounce up first to gather a few more longs, or at least make people question the fact, are we falling straight lower? So everything, in my opinion, we're going to see the first half of the day created by the jobs number tomorrow at 8:30, and that's going to be that. Now, the other thing we should touch on is oil, because we talked about oil yesterday. We had oil inventories today. They showed a bigger draw, or about a nice draw on oil inventories, which you would think oil would go up, but again, it's expectations. And people were expecting more of a draw, so it actually dropped oil down a little for the day. Oil closing down about 50 cents, but still above 99. I do think within a week we are over 100 and we close over 100. It's just a matter of what's the right catalyst. When do traders decide to take us through that 100 mark? Is it tomorrow? Is it next Monday? I do think it is coming very soon. At which point, maybe after we push through $1 or $2 on oil, maybe to 102-ish, maybe there's a short opportunity there for us. We'll have to reanalyze it at that point. All right, and gold. What can I say about gold? Gold keeps going higher, folks. The dollar continues to be very weak here lately, and we will see what happens. Have a wonderful day, guys. 8:30 jobs number. Watch out. Let's see what happens. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you for watching the videos.